tiny dreamers and tiny believers are miraculously transformed to tiny creatures. Just kidding, Dollhouse people. Whitney LaBrie here, and this is where I ended up in the last segment of the Labyrinth backyard, inspired by the Labyrinth, I should say. And right here, I am just using my little maid doll to make sure that the scale is right, and I want to just make sure that I put the fountain in the right spot, although I'm probably not going to use this fountain. I want to use a larger fountain. Anyway, everything fits. But today, what I'm really going to be focused on is flocking.
Say what? Say what?
That's right, you heard me, flocking. Today we are going to work on the hedges, and so what I did was I want those to really have a labyrinth feel. So I cut out some paper and I kind of placed them where I want the hedges to be located. I should have done it in a different color so you could see that a little bit better. And then all of the hedges are going to be made out of my styrofoam. So I did get the chance again to work with my foam cutter, which of course, as I've said before, has completely changed my life. So what I'm doing now is I'm just going to I want to do an archway in one area. So I'm just using my maid doll again to kind of get the right height and scale. So when I create it, if I wanted to put dolls in the labyrinth area, I could and they would fit. Anyway, there are a few times when we see these hedges in the movie. One of those times, of course, is the bird's eye view of Sarah and Hoggle walking through the maze of hedges. And then we see it again when we meet the bird who's very stimulated by being this old man's head. And then when Sarah meets Ludo and saves him. So these hedges are kind of what I want to do. So I'm going to do some plain hedges, but I'm also going to do some hedges that have floral because, again, it's inspired by the labyrinth, but I really want there to be flowers because it is the backyard garden. So once everything is basically all cut out and ready to go, I take my hot glue gun and I glue all the pieces together, but at this point I'm not gluing anything down, including the main walls. Everything is very loose and free-flowing right now, so that anything I need to do to the back walls I can do before everything is kind of in place, just because it's going to be a little harder to get back to those back walls later on as the time goes on. Now the first thing I'm going to do is paint all my hedges green. I'm kind of doing a combination of a light and dark green, and that's just going to be the base. And although I'm pretty much going to glue the heck out of these and put flocking all over, in case anything does rub off, this is just a nice way to have a base coat color so that it doesn't show as much if some of the flocking comes off later on down the road. So there they are, all painted nice and green. Already adding that color makes a huge difference to the labyrinth board. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take my Elmer's glue and my Tough blend here, this green blend that I bought. And the first step I'm going to do is see how I'm just putting that glue all over that. And then I have a little water and a brush, and I'm just making sure that it's fully coated and lathered in this glue. And once that's complete, I have a gap right here. So real quick, what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill it in with my glue gun glue. Now, there's other ways to do this. This is going to be the quick and what I call the lazy way. And then that's the first place I'm going to shake my flocking, my tuft on, so that it hard, because that, of course, that glue is going to harden right away. So I'm going to put it all over that to fill that gap in, as you can see there. And then I'm going to start shaking it all over the piece until it's fully coated. And then I'm just patting it down. All right, and then I'm going to set that off to dry, and I'm going to do all the pieces like that. It's going to take a little while so you're going to go in steps. So I'm going to do the front side, then the back side, then the top side. And just know that if you pick these pieces up before they're dry, this stuff's going to come off right on your fingers, and you're going to have fingerprints, and you're going to have to fill those gaps in. Why do I know this? Because I did it like 20 times, I felt like. All right, and there you have the first coat is done. All right, and they're not even dry in this photo. Just set them aside, and I let them dry like a whole day. And I see little tiny Whitney Jareth is checking out our work so far. Hope she likes it. Okay, So the next day, after they're fully dry, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my Mod Podge, and we are going to make a glue mixture here. And I'm going to do a 3-to-1 ratio. So I'm going to pour in my glue into this. This is, I think, a half a cup. And I am going to take then 3 equal parts of water, and I'm going to put them into this spray bottle, and I'm going to mix it up in there. And now I've got my glue spray. So now I've got my dry pieces, and I'm just going to spray this glue right on and try to make it a pretty even coat. Now, you don't have to spray so close. You can really mist further away if you prefer. I'm an over gluer, and that's just how it goes. However, I will tell you that I did use the matte finish in the Mod Podge because when this dries, I don't want there to be a shininess to this because they're plants. I want it to have more of a matte finish. So if you want a shinier finish, you can do a different kind of glue. This out. Now, don't do what I just did. You saw me glue and then sprinkle. So spray your glue in one area and then move your piece over to a different area when you put the flocking on. So that way your flocking doesn't stick to the paper, and then you can reuse that later on. So for half of the hedges, I'm going to do yellow flowers. This is actually left over from a kit that I did a long time ago for my mom for Mother's Day. So I had these little yellow flowers left over, and I actually had some pink as well. I am just going to spray that glue, and then I'm going to just lightly sprinkle those flowers right over the wet glue. For the yellow, it wasn't that big of a deal. I was able to sprinkle them all over the place. They stuck just fine. For the pink, though, they're larger, and so I had to hand place them with a tweezer. So the thing about doing that is, I don't know if you're like me, but I was placing them, and then all of a sudden, like, I started noticing I was putting them on a pattern form. Don't do that. While there are plenty of patterns, and while nature gives us the golden spiral, quite often we see that in nature. Flowers kind of grow in little clumps here and there. So make sure that you're not in a pattern. So make sure that you kind of move them around to make them a little bit more natural. And that's kind of what that looks like once I did that. I still haven't painted the base, and we're going to get to that in a later episode. But overall, this is what it looks like. And I really like it. I like it how this is the first time I've done this. You know, there are things I would have done differently, but a lot of that has to do with my patience level. Like, I wasn't fully waiting for everything to dry before I was trying to move on to the next step. So I'm telling you, if you don't have the patience, you're going to have to redo some stuff again because the flocking will come off on your hands if it isn't fully dry. Don't be like a Whitney. Be more like a tiny Whitney. So let's check in and see what tiny Whitney Jarrett thinks. Oh, hey, she's dancing, so she must, dancing is always good. She must like it so far. We'll have to check in next week with her, of course. So that's it. Pretty simple, pretty easy. I will tell you, I really loved this project. I wanted to do landscaping like this for a really long time. I have some other really fun things coming up for this project over the next few weeks. So definitely, if you don't already, subscribe to the channel and push notifications so you can make sure to get the next episodes. If you are in need of dollhouse furniture and accessories, jump on over to my eBay website where I have those available, and I'm posting more and more every week. So thank you so much for watching. I hope I've inspired you to get back to your own dollhouse projects, and I will see you next week. Bye!